Hi there and welcome to part 2 of my 2022 wrap, where I walk you through, in no particular order, the 60 works of poetry, prose and drama I read this year. Now, many of the books I'm going to talk about I have reviewed for the channel, and it's going to be rather tedious if I keep restating that fact. You'll find all of the information and the relevant links in the description below. So, that being said, let's get started. First, we have Thomas Hardy's Two on a Tower. Like many of his minor works, this novel can't make up its mind what it's trying to be. A romantic comedy with elements of farce, it has an ending that would be better suited to an opera. In a word, a mess, but very finely written mess. The Lover by Marguerite Duras, one of the best novels I read this year. Lyrical, passionate, brutal, a moving account of a poor young girl's struggle to find happiness in a cruel world. Thomas Mann, The Holy Sinner, the richest literary experience of the year in terms of its language. It's a reworking of a medieval verse epic, and Mann draws in words from many different tongues, even including American slang. It's a great story and it's brilliantly executed. Joseph Conrad, Under Western Eyes, hugely atmospheric, artistically courageous, because it's very slow moving for much of the novel, but it really heats up towards a very powerful conclusion. Great writing, very resonant, very deep. Edith Wharton, Roman Fever. I paired this with Henry James's Daisy Miller, which I didn't enjoy. This was far better. Edith Wharton can do everything Henry James can do and more. The title story here is only 17 pages long, but what an ending it has. Great writing. Next, Laurie Lee, As I Walked Out One Midsummer Morning. Poetry from the first sentence to the last. This was wonderful, following the development of the Laurie Lee character from the moment he leaves his village in the Midlands and sets out on a journey that will take him all the way to Spain. I think this must rank as one of the best written books I've read in my whole reading life. It was that good. Another great writer, Catherine Mansfield, In a German Pension. Some very short stories, perfectly tooled like Swiss watches, but also like icebergs. There is so much going on under the surface of these stories. The two that really stood out for me were A Birthday and The Swing of the Pendulum, which is rather Lawrence-like. Rex Warner, The Aerodrome. If you like J.G. Ballard, you will love this. Definitely a huge influence on Ballard. A very dark and surreal novel with a black, violent humour all of its own that I really enjoyed. William Sansom, Selected Short Stories, a beautiful book there. These are really varied. Some are very tense. Some have a kind of Mr. Bean quirkiness as these awkward bachelors try to court rather aloof women, sometimes with success, sometimes not, but rather neglected, very well written. Muriel Sparks, The Driver's Seat, such a unique novel actually, first person narration, and the ending for this one you will not see coming, despite the fact it's been staring you in the face all the way along. Great read. Kobo Abe, The Woman in the Dunes, heavily indebted to Kafka for its mood, but a major artist in his own right actually, and this contained one of the single most horrifying moments I've encountered in all of the fiction I've read. Anyone who's read it will know precisely what I'm referring to. Oh my goodness, he's going back. Hermann Hesse's Demian, which I read as part of my preparation for my review of Robertson Davies' Fifth Business, which reminded me of it. I always think this book is ludicrous and preposterous before I crack open its pages, and then after 5 or 10 minutes, I'm absolutely hooked. There's a magic here. Next up, something of a curiosity. Monica Achter, We're All in This Together, a self-published account that I purchased to help me with my thesis, and it's about life on the cruise ship, the Grand Princess, during the COVID-19 pandemic. What starts out as the trip of a lifetime ends with Monica and her family taken by the US Department of Defense to a disused army base and placed under armed guard as they are quarantined. It's just like a J.G. Ballard fiction. Christopher Isherwood, Prater Violet. This is a wonderful short novel about his time as a screenwriter, and it contains a great portrait of a movie director, Friedrich Bergman, real-life Berthold Viertel, who is far, far, far larger than life. Extremely good comic writing. M.R. James collected ghost stories, an extremely erudite man, the originator of the antiquarian ghost story. My favourite here was A Warning to the Curious, but they were all magnificent tales, very creepy. Next, Alfred Jarry, the Ubu Plays, coarse, blasphemous, slapstick comedy. These were absolutely hilarious. Jeff Dyer, also hilarious, Out of Sheer Rage. This is a book about D.H. Lawrence, but it's kind of written in the style of a Thomas Bernhard novel. Dyer is a huge admirer, like myself, of both men, and it really is one of the most intelligent and funny books I've ever read. Absolutely wonderful, highly recommended. Next, David Blaize by E.F. Benson. This is a very gentle account of being a public school boy at the turn of the 20th century. Nothing like as vicious as Kipling's Stalking & Co. Nothing like as violent as Tom Brown's School Days, but very enjoyable nevertheless. Next is Alberto Moravia, The Time of Indifference. I would liken this to a highly intellectual soap opera, and it has a great villain, the despicable Leo, who takes great pleasure in humiliating the other characters. And on the theme of pleasure, I'm going to share 3 of my guilty pleasures now. They are adventure stories, and the first 2 are by John Buchan. This one is really great. Prester John, it's actually closer in spirit to King Solomon's Mines by H. Rider Haggard than it is to The 39 Steps. So exciting, and it's really well plotted. Then his adventure Greenmantle. This has a weird homoerotic S&M subtext going on between the English hero and a German military officer. It's kind of kinky. And then this one is based on a true story. It's Ben Macintyre's Operation Mincemeat, a famous British intelligence operation of World War II, where a corpse was dressed up as an officer, had some fake documents planted on it, and was then dropped off the Iberian Peninsula in the hope that the Nazis would pick it up and be led astray in their war preparations. Perfect Christmas present material for dad or granddad there. Now back to the serious stuff to finish with. Anna Letitia Barbauld selected poetry and prose. This contains her most famous poem, 1811, and also some of the sermons she wrote. Ferociously intelligent and a woman of strong moral principle. I'm going to be doing a video about her in January. And then the last book is really a number of books. It's rather different, and it's the Norton Anthology of English Literature, the Middle Ages. So let's talk about that, and then I'll say my farewells. Now, regular viewers of the channel will know I've been making my way very slowly through this very long book, and it is quite a job. The works contained in here are so rich that you just can't rush through them, and a number of the poems are the complete work. So for example, it has all of Seamus Heaney's wonderful translation of Beowulf. It has all of Simon Armitage's equally wonderful translation of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. It has excerpts from the Canterbury Tales, the Miller's Tale, the Partner's Tale, the Wife of Bath's Tale. They are so funny, so earthy, so vulgar. And it also contains the lay, or 4 of them, of Marie de France. And I went away and read all 12 in the verse translation by Dorothy Gilbert, which I also made a video about. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings the total of books I read this year to 60. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this part 2 of my review of the year's reading, and all that remains now is for me to say goodbye. So until the next time, be safe, be strong, and I shall see you anon. Nanu nanu.